Hello and welcome to Center for Victory's podcast of Your Best Day Yet. At Center for Victory, we're here to help unlock, reinforce, and enrich relationships through personal and professional development. I'm Eric Guy, Chief Victory Officer here at the Center for Victory, along with one of our senior partners, Mr. Corey Christman. Great to have you back on the episode, Corey. Today, we're starting this month. We've been talking about rebirth and rejuvenation, which could mean a lot to a lot of different people. And on the heels of what all has been going on with our nation, is probably a good topic, a timely topic for today. So what we'll be going over are really just kind of, you're going to talk to us about some different things about leaning into the unknown, where you currently are as a result of your choices and your decisions, and then talk to us a little bit about finding the best people that you want to see in yourself, so to speak. But, we're going to kind of go in it, those terms. When we were doing this, creating the themes for each month, this was about 5 months ago, so I didn't know what all would be going on in the world. But it's interesting. We decided to stay with the topic because there's a lot of things going on, and I think we need to understand where we're at as a society, what we need to do, how we can move forward with everything that's going on, and what we need to do. So hopefully you'll be able to give us some ideas, and we'll be able to put these into practical application and move forward. The first concept, Corey, that we want to talk about is really this whole idea of leaning into the unknown. So we're going to start kind of with your story, of where you all started. You're going to take us back just a few years.
Couple, 2 or 3.
Yeah. What does that mean, leaning into the unknown?
Yeah, well, first of all, it's great to be back on the show. We've talked about this as an organization, as a team. The topic of rebirth and rejuvenation resonated with me early on, mainly because I feel that in my life story, I've experienced a lot of that. And now with everything that's going on with the COVID-19, and there's a lot going on emotionally and psychologically. So I think I'm glad we kept this topic, because I think looking back after this is all over, I think the content here will be pretty accurate and applicable for a long time to come. But to that end, we think about rebirth and rejuvenation. As a young adult, I made the decision as a very young adult, I made the decision to enter the Air Force. And I can remember as 18 years old, preparing to graduate high school and not really having an understanding of what life was all about. I just knew one thing: the college probably wasn't a place where I would be successful at. So I tried and stepped off into the unknown of this whole military thing, and went down to Lackland Air Force Base, Texas, back in the old 1992. I'm dating myself a little bit, but then from there I started my Air Force career. First part of my career was dealing with airplanes and aircraft maintenance, and then I finally was able to get to my dream job, which was where I spent most of my military career, and that was as a special agent with the Air Force Office of Special Investigation. So yet another rebirth. So this was about my 7-year mark in the military, and then the last 13 or so, I was doing what I loved. So, but the key takeaway for me there was, man, nobody I knew had went into the military, right? I mean, I didn't know anybody. My dad had been in the military a long time ago. But, I can just remember stepping onto that plane, man, and then getting off in San Antonio and be like, what did I get myself into? But I think some of the takeaways when we think about some of the challenges we face, sometimes we tend to step away from things that are uncomfortable. We tend to go around discomfort And, by leaning into it, we may not know the pathway, we may not know what the end state is, but having the courage and the confidence to know that, you know, we can navigate the path. That was a big challenge for me, but it's something I continue to practice even today.
Yeah, it's, I mean, just always good to understand. I think people just assume that people got to a certain place and there was no kind of, discomfort or anything like that. And it's like, well, you kind of needed that to get to the next point, right? Because I know, I met you after you were in the military,
Yeah,
right? And that I mean, we could talk about that transition too, but I don't want to steal any of your thunder here because I think what you have some good concepts, but it's, you were probably, here's another new thing. What am I supposed to do here? And you have lots and different opportunities that you could do. I mean, you've been a college professor and things like that. It's amazing that hey, when you were young, it's like, well, I don't want to go to college. I should go to the military, and then down the road, you're a college professor. Uh,
yeah,
just the irony of that. But one of the things that you touched on were, the decisions and actions. So where we are as a function of our actions and our decisions is a pretty powerful statement. So
yeah,
can you kind of dive down into that a little bit more for us, please?
yeah. I mean, it's like many things in life, or many people in life, should I say. Sometimes I learn things the hard way. Sometimes, and when we were thinking about this concept, really, my military career was really on a great trajectory for the better part of it. I entered in 1992, and by the time 2002, 10 years in, I was being promoted way ahead of my peers. I was in leadership positions, things like that. But then it kind of came to some things that transpired. I was preparing to go to war, Operation Iraqi Freedom, and we had some significant casework. We had some death cases that um, I was had to investigate, um, and around the 2003 to 2004 timeframe is really when the wheels started coming off the axle, and I didn't know it at the time, but there was a series of you're not in control of your emotions. You start making bad decisions, and then you start, now you're starting this pathway of, making repeated bad decisions. And but I didn't see it at the time, and so fast forward, close to my retirement back in 2012. I continued to have some success, but it wasn't until I retired and started really learning about myself and really understanding this concept that we are a function of our actions and our decisions, that I was able to look back with some help of some professionals to say, hey, listen, here's where these things happened, and here's why they happened, and let's set you on a course and a path in the future so that you don't repeat those things. And so, yeah, I'm passionate about my military career, and I'm passionate about the things that I accomplished. But I wish I would have had earlier on in my career that someone to tap me on the shoulder and say, "Hey, listen, this is why you're doing those things, and this is why these things are happening." Because I think the outcome may have been a little different.
Uh-huh.
So, it's there's a lot more to that story, and we can talk about it another time. But I think for the audience here, I think just the takeaway is when you think about where you are in life, what would happen if you approached your decision making a little differently? What would happen if you approached it from an ownership standpoint, right? I own these decisions, and my actions are a result of, what I do and what I say. And I think you might get a little bit different result with that approach.
Yeah, and just being more conscious of it. Absolutely, I agree with that 100%. Last question here, Corey. Um, can you elaborate a little bit on the idea and power behind surrounding yourself with people who see the best in you?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's something we talk about at the Center for Victory quite often. We soar with eagles, and we surround ourselves with people who lift us up and people who want what's best for us. And at the time that I was, retiring from the military, I didn't know it again until I started the whole transition process. But I had a lot going on, right? A lot of mental health matters that have gone unaddressed and undiagnosed. And um, but at that time, I was able to put people around me who said, "Hey, listen, we got you. We've got your back. We understand that there's some things going on, and we're here." And sometimes that's really all we need, right? Knowing that somebody's not going to judge us, they're not going to, make fun of us or do the silly things that we sometimes see on social media and other places. So I was able to surround myself with those people. I was able to get into therapy, which I still take advantage of today, like 8 years later. And I was really able to separate the fact from the fiction, right? I was able to lean into my own rebirth and rejuvenation, make better decisions, and take a greater level of accountability for things that were happening in my life. And that's really helped me change the course of my direction. It's made me be a better person, quite frankly. Um, and it's something I'll always have to work on. But I think, if I didn't have those people, if I didn't have people like, my wife and family members and people at the Center for Victory, I don't know where if I would be enjoying life as much and having as much success. So hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, you certainly turned out okay.
Well, the jury's still out. The
Yeah,
jury's still out, right?
yeah, you've always been a great friend. Um, in ending, do you have any other tips that you would kind of leave with people? Hey, if you're doing this, if it's a transition, if you're in, even if you're in the midst of a situation like we are now, I mean, are there a couple things? I got some nuggets here as you were talking, but are there some things that you would just refresh for people or remind them, hey, if you're going to do something, do this, this, and this?
Yeah, I think nowadays, now more than ever, especially with world events, I mean, I think, separating emotional response from what I call factual action,
Mm.
right? So we get caught up in this constant emotion where we're just responding, and really what we're responding to, it may or may not be true. So first of all, can you separate fact from fiction, leave the emotion to the side, and focus on what we know to be true, and that includes what people think about you, what people say about you. How many people do we talk to on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis that their lives could be exponentially better if they would stop placing so much emphasis on what other people think and say about
Right.
them, right? So action, we call it action versus reaction in the college class I teach, but um, can you stop the reaction and place a greater emphasis on the action? I think secondly, in that regard, is someone asked me recently, what separates people who uh, talk about goals and people who actually achieve goals. And I think the number one thing that comes to mind there is the people that achieve the goals have to believe that it's possible. That first belief that it's possible um, is where we begin to traverse that pathway. So those two things, kind of, I think, in summation, I think, can be very helpful.
Yeah. Appreciate that, Corey. And I'll end it with a quote that you gave me, which is very appropriate for for right now, it says, when you decide, you will begin. Very simple, but very appropriate.
Yeah.
Um, you know,
Yeah.
so was there something else you were going to say?
No, I was going to say, I mean, to me, that's a quote. I don't even know who came up with it. It's, I don't know, maybe I don't know, but when I saw it, it's pretty simple, but it's pretty effective too. When you decide you've had enough, you'll take the next step. When you decide that you want to tackle a goal or objective, you'll plan accordingly and you'll do it. When you decide that the people that are around you aren't the best people for you, you'll surround yourself with other people.
Well, that's good. And I'm glad we had you on the show again. I know you'll be back, and really thanks for the input, all you have to offer. Hope you all liked it. That's it for today. Really appreciate you watching. Make sure you leave the video a like and leave a comment down in the comment section, please. I'd also appreciate it if you hit the subscribe button as well as the bell icon to get notified when we post next. As always, if you'd like more information, you can visit us. You can visit Corey and I at centerforvictory.com. And just remember, wherever you're at, whatever you're doing, make sure you make this day your best day yet. See you later.